I think what your academic record right now, as it stands right now, it doesn't show that you can do the work. All right. Well, welcome to Am I Ready? Another exciting episode, and glad you're here. We have a guest with us today, and this is Julio. Hello, Julio. How are you?
Hello, doing well. How are you?
Yeah, doing great. It's good to see you, and glad that you're with us tonight. And we're recording this on February the 21st. And tell me where you're located right now, Julio.
Well, right now I'm in Oakland, California. I'm visiting friends and family, but I live in New York City, so it's a
Okay.
bit different.
Oh, so the big city, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Well, we're going to look at your mapped account and come to some conclusions about are you ready to apply this year?
All right.
And I'll be as honest as I can with you and forthright, and we'll have time for you to ask questions and stuff like that. But we're going to look at your mapped account and we're going to evaluate everything, and then we'll see kind of where things stand. So let's look first of all at your mapped account, and what we see here on the screen is the AMCAS calculated GPA of a 3.27 cumulative and a science GPA of 2.58. And then I see, some ups and downs and stuff. What we're looking at primarily here is the green bar here on this graph,
Okay.
which indicates your sort of semester by semester grades or performance. And why don't you tell me a little bit about what I'm seeing here? Tell me your academic story.
Yeah, my academic story, I went to private school for a few semesters, but I had to work full time just to pay through college, and that did make a lot of the classes quite difficult.
Sure.
But I really tried to prioritize seeking out help, going to tutoring, and I felt like it was also just a big jump from high school to college. And then I had transferred from the private school to public school to Stony Brook University. Love that school, and just
And
continue.
that's on Long Island.
That's on Long Island. Yes, that's correct.
Sure. Yeah.
Love that school, and that really helped me out. I was a history major, but I was taking a lot of science courses because at that time I was an EMT. I was a volunteer EMT, and a lot of my friends were taking a lot of science courses. So I was taking it more out of interest. But I have a lot of the prereqs completed for my undergrad almost a decade ago now. Yeah.
So this is a pretty long timeline. So
it took a very long timeline.
Yes. Took you a little bit longer than I guess maybe typical to go through your experience. So what did you end up? What was your major as it ended up?
Yes. For undergrad, I decided to complete my undergrad degree in history. And that was mostly due to just finances. I was trying I had figured out I wanted to stay an extra year or so to finish on my prereqs and apply to medical school at that time in undergrad. But however, I spoke to an advisor and I had run out of student aid. And so we just discussed, and based on the classes I've already taken, I was just like one more credit shy, I believe, of graduating with a history degree. And I was, instead of dropping out of undergrad, I took that. And I graduated, quote unquote, on time with a history degree. I became a teacher and taking night classes as I've been teaching throughout the school year.
Okay. And so you're taking the night classes there in New York City?
Yes. Now I'm back taking night classes in New York City.
Okay. And that is at community college, or that is at four-year school, or what?
Four-year school at CUNY City College.
Okay,
good. Yes.
And so I'm seeing some of that graphed out toward the end here.
Yes. Yeah. It took some years while teaching to save up because I'm paying out of pocket for these classes at night. And then I was able to have enough money to purchase these classes, these courses as I'm working.
Okay. Good.
And another exciting thing is I sought out like a cognitive assessment, and I was diagnosed with ADHD and a reading disability. And now I finally have given like accommodations for academics, which I'm very excited for. But it does
sure.
It's better late than never after about 11 years.
Right.
Working on
Sure.
this. But very excited for those accommodations.
Okay. Now you're taking classes this semester?
That's correct. I'm taking Physics 2. This is my last prereq, at least on like the list.
Okay. Now, what I'm seeing here on this graph, Julio, is between, I guess, well, the last 2 semesters that are listed on here, last fall and the previous spring. Tell me about those 2 semesters.
Last fall and the previous spring.
Those are previous summer. I mean,
spring and summer. Oh, so I took a biochem class that was a lot of fun in the spring of last year in 2021, and then I had to take physics. I've taken physics in undergrad years ago, but did not pass. I believe I got a D. And then I took it over the summer, and I didn't even realize, but it was like a calc-based physics, and it was also. And I've taken calculus in many years, and then it was also just very rushed because it was in the summer.
Sure.
And that pushed me actually to try and get a cognitive assessment and see if I need accommodations, because it was definitely a struggle. Like I took the exams, and within the 2-hour allotted time, I did maybe 2 questions. And it wasn't even like I was stumped by it because I was studying. It was just it didn't take me a while to get through.
Right. Okay.
That was a struggle. And then I had to retake physics in the fall.
Okay. So the accommodations that they're giving you at the city of
CUNY City College.
Yeah. Now, what are those accommodations?
It would be 100% extra time, so double the time. I'm allowed to wear like noise canceling headphones to help me focus. I'm able to have movement breaks. Everything, like I should have the ability to have things in audio format. So I do have my textbook, thankfully, for physics. And that's audio, which is perfect. I definitely need that. I'm even a teacher, and I even tell my students that, like, if that helps you with access to the text, like, definitely listen to the stories. That is fine.
Sure. Okay, good. Let's go back to this, and I want to go down and look at the other the other metric that we look at a lot, which is the MCAT. And so now you have not taken MCAT, the real exam yet, correct?
No, that's correct.
Okay. And so what I see here are three practice tests. And what is your, what's going on with the MCAT in terms of your plan right now?
Yeah, I was hoping for this actual break that I'm on right now this week for February. But then since I was recently provided those accommodations with the diagnosis, I had to figure out how to get accommodations for the MCAT itself. And I saw on the MCAT website that you have to apply for it. And so I did, but there's about a 60 or 90-day wait period. And I'm a little nervous because I still haven't heard back from them.
Right.
And what I'm also thinking of, maybe instead of, because of my downward trend in my GPA, of doing like maybe a linkage program or a GPA boosting program. But a lot of them do require the MCAT. I've reached out to a few programs asking if, like, should I wait until I get approved for the accommodations, or do you recommend to apply? Should I just take the MCAT? Which I know that's not something like just take the MCAT. I can't take that lightly, but I'm trying to meet their application deadlines and see what's best.
Right,
Yes.
right. Okay. So your last practice exam was in November, is that right?
Yes. That I took
Okay.
like a full length practice.
Right. Okay, good. And so you've done 2 Princeton review tests, sort of demo kind of things, and then a blueprint one. Are you taking, is your plan to take a review class or do review class material? Are you going to do the study on your own, or, what are you going to do in terms of preparation?
I would love to take a prep class. I do feel I learn a lot more when I'm in a group with others, if I'm interacting and speaking, than to have the text in front of me,
Mm-hmm.
especially just learning too of the reading disability. I trying to make sure I'm accessing the material. Um, it is quite expensive, and since I'm saving up and
Sure.
then paying out of pocket for these
Mm-hmm.
night classes, I don't foresee that taking
Mm,
those courses.
right.
Um, but I'm not too sure. I'm trying to see if I do apply to a booster program for like the GPA booster or like a
Mm-hmm.
linkage program for
Mm-hmm.
in the fall of
Mm-hmm.
2022.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they'll incorporate something for training, or if I'm going back to school full time, maybe I will have more time allotted for a review course.
Right.
I would
Right.
love to have.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, good. So let's look at your activities then. And so I see things on here that you've been doing or in the past you've been doing. And let's look at this a little bit as well.
Okay.
So you have been, and you talked about how you worked your way through um, undergrad, and so that's what we're seeing a lot here, right? Is resident assistant, for example. Um, you did some shadowing back in 2015, and then you were in the ambulance corps in 2014 through 16. Is that where your sort of interest comes from in terms of medicine?
No, it was actually much younger than that, but it just was re-sparked when I was volunteering as an EMT.
Mm-hmm.
But no, even younger than that, because growing up in my family and the community that I grew up with, it was mostly Black and Latinx, and typically that population doesn't have the best relationship with medical professionals,
Mm-hmm.
and just seeing the misfortune or just the disparities of,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you could get that help, you could get like learn more about how to be preemptive and proactive about your own health.
Right.
That made me really interested in some sort of health support for that community.
Right.
um, and so I've always been interested in it. But then when I got to school, I my main priority was just graduating
Right.
and making sure that I can be independent.
Right.
So finding a job, and that was when it kind of
Right.
switched
Right.
around to the history.
Yeah, sure.
And
And
teaching.
so, and you've got a lot of experience teaching. I'm looking at that, right?
Yes, this is my 6th year teaching now.
Mm-hmm. And what do you teach?
I teach special education. Right now,
Oh,
I'm at an
wow.
elementary school, so I teach
Uh-huh.
special ed, small groups K through 3, and it's like a full
Wow.
inclusion. I push in, pull out in small groups. I make accommodations for the students.
Mm-hmm.
And then prior to that, I used to teach. During the pandemic, I taught kindergarten because they needed like a gen ed teacher. And then
Mm-hmm.
before that, I taught middle school, 7th and 8th grade,
Oh, wow.
more severe special needs. And I
Yeah.
loved all of it.
Yeah. Does the teaching special ed students, does that make you interested in perhaps vulnerable populations in terms of medicine as well?
Yes, just also knowing maybe like the lack of access, because even like the parents of the students that I had taught, maybe if the students have learning disabilities or they're neurodivergent, most likely it's hereditary, and so like their parents are experiencing that too. And there's like a lot of resources that could be utilized, but I feel like a lot of families may not have access to or just not know, and so that does make you want to put that in and tie that in as a physician later on in life. And then even when I taught middle school, I led like an LGBTQIA plus club,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that's another population I would like to focus on as well. Just really helping out with that health for trans, LGBTQIA plus, any of those, and really supporting that as well.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Okay, good. Julio, let me ask you this: in terms of the accommodations and what you're facing, do you feel like that that you have a good handle now on kind of how to study and how to do it within the context of your disabilities, etc.?
Yeah, it's taken years, and I've already developed even before the diagnosis. I would use audio. I would do a lot more visual learning to access mnemonics. But then just knowing, just having the diagnosis and getting kind of the demystification afterward of it's not that there's a limit to my understanding. It's just that I need to access it differently. It has made my studying a lot more efficient, effective. I feel like I'm not burning myself out or focusing on or misprioritizing. I think I'm a lot stronger with that. What's difficult is that it's hard to see or reflect that from the past 10 or 11 years. But now even this last semester with physics, that was I believe my fourth time taking physics 1. And with the tools that I've learned and with the diagnosis, that I was able to pass the class. It made me feel so great. Not with an A or B, but still, like, I'm very proud of myself.
Right. I understand that. Good. So let's look at a list of kind of the schools that you've got in here. So you're concentrating on California schools primarily, or just all over the place?
So all over the place, just understanding, casting that large net, especially for the stats that I do have, a bit less competitive, even though I do believe the experiences that I've had the last few years would make me a strong applicant. But primarily, I would say yes. I would like more so California, New York, both states. I have friends and family, and I've lived in both. So that would just be a good fit. Other schools you might see, like one-offs in other states or cities. That's just mostly from researching. Maybe I'm interested in the program, or I've had friends that haven't gone and I've asked them about it and they seem to enjoy it.
Right. Okay, good. So let me kind of boil all this down and give you some of my thoughts here. Clearly, Julio, your academic records, and you know this is going to be problematic. And so I would strongly recommend the post-bac programs that you've talked about, in terms of there's a variety of them around the country, and I think in your case, I think a special master's program, you mentioned linkages, and a lot of them do have some kind of linkage programs with the medical schools that they're connected to, or with other medical schools. I think what your academic record right now, as it stands right now, it doesn't show that you can do the work. And this is not a big surprise to you. I mean, basically, particularly when we consider your science GPA being at a 2.25, a little over 2.5. I mean, what you've got to be able to do is show the medical schools that you can handle the rigor of a medical school environment with success. And so the only way to do that is to show in the classroom strong academic work. And so I definitely think that a a special master's program would be appropriate for you. I think that would be the best direction. One that focuses on GPA repair, I think is a very good idea. And it sounds like you've been looking at those, one similar to that around the country. Is that right? Do I have that right?
Yeah, I've been looking into the special master's programs specifically for that reason.
Right. Yeah, and when we are offline, one of the things that I can do is I'm going to give you a name that of somebody that I'd like for you to contact, and we'll talk about that when we finish the broadcast. But I want to give you a name of somebody to contact and that I think can be helpful in that regard. So
thank you. I appreciate
any
support.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. And the other piece to this, Julio, that I think you're going to really need to do some work on is your clinical activities. I mean, you really have only a limited amount, and that goes back to about 2015 or so. And so I think that, what I would recommend is even now, and it's obviously difficult within the context of the pandemic, but I think getting more clinical experience is going to be really important for you, as it is for everybody, to not only be satisfied within yourself that this is definitely what you want to do, but to be able to show the medical schools that you have an understanding of clinical medicine, that you know what you're getting into, that you've been around it, that you've done it in ways that are meaningful, and that you're reflecting on those and really showing that this is what you want to do. Shadowing is one thing. Shadowing is very passive.
Yes.
I would recommend you look at a variety of the problem with some of the work, the employment that you can get in terms of clinical activities, it doesn't pay very well. Scribing is one that a lot of students do. We have a lot of students that are certified nurse assistants, a CNA, or a patient care technician, or a MA, medical assistant.
Yes.
These are very common, but also EMT is very common as well. Now, you have EMT certification?
Not anymore. I had let it expire while I was teaching.
Okay. Now, is that possible that you could re-up that somehow or whatever?
It is possible, yes. I can look into courses once again to get that licensure.
Yeah.
Prior to probably this past few months, to be honest, I've kind of I feel like I've limited myself, just thinking about the finances and being so scared about it.
Yeah.
And clinging on to my teaching profession. I'm like, this is stable. I need this.
Right.
Let me take one class at a time. And
Right.
I feel like in the end, it's not truly serving me. And I understand how it does those clinical positions that I need for the hours and experience may not pay as well. But I'm taking that risk now.
I think that's reasonable. I think that, at the end of the day, Julio, you have to do what you have to do. I mean, and I think that my feeling is, now the good news is with special master's programs, what you're able to do is it starts a new ticker in terms of financial aid, because they're graduate programs as opposed to undergraduate programs.
That's amazing. Yes, because I applied for post-bac a few years ago when I was trying to. I think it was maybe my second year of teaching. So this is maybe 4 years back. And I had got into one program, but I had no financial aid, maybe because it was undergrad classes.
Right.
That makes sense. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So that's another benefit for you of a special master's program, is that you can get funding for for that as a graduate student that is different than the funding that you received as an undergraduate student.
That's awesome. Okay.
So definitely, check in on that. And the name of the guy that I'm going to give you is he will be able to answer some questions about that as well. So definitely. But, basically, Julio, basically, when it all boils down to it, you're not ready to apply yet. And you kind of know that. And what I would say is that a special master's program is definitely something that you need to do. I think
yes.
in the at the end of the day, as I said before, you got to really be able to show the medical schools that you can do the work, and what you've done thus far doesn't do that. But I think that now that you have a diagnosis and you're working towards starting a new, turning a new leaf over, starting a new sort of process here with renewed excitement. You sound, much more excited now, and it sounds like you're really pumped about this. And so that's a necessary thing. And so what I would say is, check into the special master's programs, see if you can't find one that really accommodates your needs, and will be good for you. I would say at the earliest, I would say you potentially could be ready by this time next year, in the next application cycle, kind of depending on what, pans out in terms of the post-bac master's programs, and then the MCAT obviously is something that you're going to have to consider as well. But all in all, what I would say is, Julio, yours is the kind of story where, you're obviously having to kind of do this on your own and sort of figure things out. And I think that, what I would like to do is really impress upon you the importance of kind of staying focused and really understanding kind of what's before you. And you've got a good history of teaching, which will be not disregarded at all in the process, but is a different kind of thing. You know what I'm saying? And so I think, it really goes back to the linchpins of an application cycle. The schoolwork is one, the MCAT is another, and the activities is the third. It's sort of like a stool, a three-legged stool. And the stool sits on those three legs. And if any of those three legs is too short, it's not going to stand up. It's going to fall over. And so you want those three things to be the linchpins of your application to medical school is the schoolwork, which the special master's program will address. Obviously the MCAT, and that's going to take, studying and stuff like that. And then the clinical activities. So I would say, you're really probably a couple of years, at least a year away, maybe 2 years away from being ready to apply. I think that, at this point, what I would say is that you have to really be kind of willing to do whatever it takes. And
I made it there now because, again, with the fear-based, making sure I'm standing on my own 2 feet, that I'm okay. I had told my boss, the principal of my school 2 years ago, that 2020 would be my last year teaching, like June 2020, like that's it.
Right.
The pandemic had hit.
Yeah, right.
My partner was actually let go of his job, and we were trying to figure out what can we do. So my boss she offered me to stay another year, and then that was also very helpful for me for saving up a bit more and taking classes in the evening. However, now I had told her again that this will be my last year teaching because I want to go back to school full time. It is scary. I'm trying.
It is scary.
I don't know for sure what's happening after June, the last day of school. But I am excited for this. It feels right because I want to like listening to the podcast, learning from Dr. Gray of just like, you got to think outside the box if you really want this. And he has offered like advice to other students saying, maybe like move in with family and all that stuff.
Right.
And I was like, that's not an option for me, but just like think
outside the box. Definitely.
Yeah. So, so that's the
Good.
next step. I'm taking that
Yeah.
risk. This is my last year, 6 years of teaching.
Good.
Trying to go back to school full time because one class at a time has been quite difficult.
Yeah.
Now knowing the accommodations too, I'm very
good. That's very exciting. And I think you have to lock into that excitement because ultimately that's what is motivating you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think getting into a clinical setting, whether it's as an EMT or something else, will also be very helpful in terms of the motivation that you need to really move forward. So I definitely suggest that as well. So that's great. And so Julio, tell me what questions that you have that I might be able to help with.
I think the biggest one I have is from the school. One of the programs I applied to, a special master's program, I had asked because they do require an MCAT score.
Yeah.
If it's recommended that I just try and apply to take the MCAT.
Well, there are some there. I would encourage you, I think, to find a special master's program that does not require the MCAT.
Okay.
And I think that, and there are some of those out there, and I would say look at those and see if you can't find one that will kind of meet your needs that doesn't require that on the front end. I think that because that's going to prolong your process a lot. If you have to stop right now and study for 4 or 5 months to take the MCAT before you can even get into a special master's program to then prepare you for medical school. So I would encourage you to look for those that do not require that.
Okay. I'm very curious. I need to do more research because I want to find those.
Yeah, and it's like I said, the guy I'm going to give you his name. He will be quite helpful with that as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Good. Well, Julio, what I want to do is encourage you. I mean, it's obvious to me that you have had kind of a tough go. You've had to do everything kind of on your own, and you've had to kind of push forward in the ways that you could and stuff. And that means, that has meant several things in terms of your journey. But I want you to be encouraged that this is still, this is still something that you can do. Mm-hmm. This is still something that you can fulfill that dream for yourself and become a physician. It's going to require a considerable amount of work and time and effort, but it is definitely something that I think is very possible for you. And I think the next step really is to get into a graduate program that's gonna help you get where you want to go.
Thank you.
That makes sense.
I appreciate you saying that. Yeah.
So keep a very strong sense of motivation and stuff for yourself, and I think that'd be helpful.